Bruchim habayim, welcome everyone. We are continuing on Shulchan Aruch, the halachot of Shabbat, Siman Resh Nun Bet. We are holding by the very tail end of the Siman on Seif Vav, and this is on Daf Yutet Amud Bet of the regular prints of your Mishna Beruras. Maran writes, Lo yetzeh adam erev Shabbat samuch lachashecha b'machato beyado v'lo bekulmuso. A person should not leave the house, leave their domain on Erev Shabbat when it's close to sunset, when they have things on them that will be considered carrying, because you may forget. Shema ishkach v'yotzi. You may forget and come to carry them in the Reshut HaRabim. Aval mutar. And again, these are the examples. Is a needle they would have for sewing. People had sometimes carried the needle always with them for whatever needs. A lot of things that you could do with a machat, and also you have your pen that they would also carry it many times with them without realizing it over their ear or whatnot, as we will learn. You could go out with your tefillin, because you're not going to forget tefillin on. Again, remember that in the time of Chazal, they would walk around with tefillin the entire day. It's not like us that you daven shaharit and then you kiss it goodbye until tomorrow morning. They had tefillin during the course of the entire day, and they took it off by sundown. And that's something that you're not going to forget. We'll see what the difference is, says the Mishna Berura. It's not just a needle or a pen, but in any other thing that you are carrying with you also could perhaps be forgotten, and therefore you should be careful. Now, if it's something that you don't always carry, then the Tiferet Yisrael on the beginning of Masechet Mishnayot, Masechet Shabbat, says that you could go out with, because you're not going to forget. But things that people are carrying with them all the time, those are the things that you may come to forget. For instance, there's a question about watches. Now, halacha is that watches perhaps are fine, certainly in a makom sheyesh eruv, but a watch is something that you don't remember to take off necessarily, right? Or for those people who had a pocket watch back in the day, that was like a chain with a watch that would flip open and so on, those fancy ones, those you carried the whole day, you're not going to remember, and that's perhaps considered carrying according to most of the poskim, and therefore a person would take them up. But the Pharisee says if it's something that you don't usually walk around with, then we're not concerned that you're going to forget and to come to carry. Same thing is when you have stuff in your pocket. That's why, by the way, many people have a minhag, a very good minhag, that as they wear their garments for Shabbat, they check all the pockets. And you'll be surprised. Many times, oh, it's my Shabbat suit. Well, what's going to be? And then next thing you check, and in your pocket you have a placement card from a wedding that you attended, and you were wearing your Shabbat suit, and here you have it still in your pocket, right? And things of this nature do happen, and therefore you have a minhag for many people who check their suits, their pockets, before they go out of the house every year of Shabbat. Says the Mishna Berura, even in your pocket is considered derech hotzah. That's the way people carry things, and therefore you're dealing with a full-fledged isur deoraita. It's not that, I'm not holding it in my hand. Hand and pocket doesn't make a difference as far as carrying is concerned. But if your needle that we're talking about over here is already well adjusted inside your garment in a way that it's not the way people carry it, then it would be mutar, because we're not choshesh that you're going to forget it. This is, again, we're talking about Erev Shabbat, not on Shabbat. We're not going to be concerned that you are going to forget to take it out, because even if you would forget to take it out, still would not be a isudoraita. It's not the way people carry a machat, a needle. Therefore, it would be mutar. Of course, we're not talking about a a seamstresser that always has things poked in his needles poked all over his suit and his garment, that for him is going to be considered perhaps a derech hotza'ah. V'chol kayotze b'azeh b'inyan im haya yotze bo b'shabbat patur mideoraita. Anything that the transgression would be derabanan if he would carry it on Shabbat, we are not concerned on erev Shabbat if he's walking that he's going to forget. Because Chazal did not make a gezerah on top of a gezerah. Nowadays, that is very questionable. Even if we have Reshut Harabim altogether, then it's mutar to go on Erev Shabbat with all kinds of different things, because everything is the Rabbanan anyways at most, and therefore we're not going to be concerned that you're going to forget to take them off before Shabbat. מיהו לדעת הרבה פוסקים והמחבר מכללם גם בזמן הזה עיקר רשות הרבים. Here is $1 million Mishna Berura. You hear this? $1 million Mishna Berura. There's a massive question whether or not Maran of Shulchan Aruch holds that today we have Reshut Harabim Deoraita or not. If you want to know what Chafetz Chaim holds, the Chafetz Chaim holds nowadays we do have Reshut Harabim Deoraita according to Maran Shulchan Aruch. לדעת הרבה פוסקים והמחבר מכללם. The Shulchan Aruch's author, Maran of Shulchan Aruch, is one of those, says the Chafetz Chaim, who holds nowadays we do have Reshut Harabim Deoraita, which by the way means that Eruv does not help. If you have Reshut Harabim Deoraita, then you cannot carry, period. Because Eruv only works assuming that there is no Reshut Harabim Deoraita, everything is the Rabbanan, then you can fix it with Eruv. But if you're dealing with Reshut Harabim Deoraita, there is no fix. Again, this is an apparent stira between Maran in Siman Shin Gimal to Siman Shin Mem Hey, and the understanding of the Chafetz Chaim over here is that Maran Shulchan Aruch holds that there is Reshut Harabim Deoraita nowadays. So this is tucked away in the end of Siman Resh Nun Bet in Seif Vav, in the words of Holy Chafetz Chaim in Mishna Berura Seif Katan Nun Bet at the end.
This applies to all the streets or just certain streets in particular?
Certain streets. But again, if you're talking about large streets that they pass for all the other criterias of the Reshut Harabim, to say that, we need 600,000 people passing through it every day and so on, that would be debatable. And again, Maran seems to say it's the Oraita nowadays in Siman Shin Mem Hey. But the Vilna Gaon, in his commentary on Shulchan Aruch, writes that forget about the Oraita. Even a Carmelit, this whole thing of you need Reshut Harabim Deoraita in order for this to be Asur, the Vilna Gaon does not subscribe to that. He holds even a Carmelit, even a Reshut Harabim Derabanan, it will be Asur Erev Shabbat right before sundown. Shema Yishkach V'yotzi, the fact that you may forget and come to carry. Haynu Shishkach V'yotzi et hachefes mishtachshach Reshut Harabim Reshut l'Reshut. The concern is after sundown you're going to carry this in Reshut Harabim for a few feet, or bring it from your home to Reshut Harabim, or vice versa, which would constitute a biblical prohibition. Then the Shulchan Aruch says that tefillin is not a problem because you're not going to forget it. We're not talking about the tefillin that's in a pouch. We're talking about tefillin that you're wearing. When you're wearing tefillin, you're not going to forget it. Why? Because you're supposed to remember that you have tefillin all the time. You're kissing it, you're reminding yourself of it at all times, and we're not concerned that you're going to carry it. And even if you would carry it, then it's still considered like a garment. It's not a transgression necessarily of the Oraita level. We're not concerned that you're going to need bathroom and you're going to come to take them off and then carry them 400 in Reshut Harabim. You don't forget your tefillin on your head. Shemitzvah lemashmesh bahem. It's a mitzvah to constantly touch them and remind yourself of the fact that you have tefillin on. It's asur to take your mind off of your tefillin. You constantly are supposed to be reminding yourself. There's exclusion. The exclusion is when you learn Torah and when you're davening, you're not mechuyav to remember tefillin every second. But the rest of the day, you constantly have to be reminded that you're wearing tefillin. But if you're holding the pouch of tefillin bag, then it would be asur to go out with them Erev Shabbat. Like other things that we mentioned in the beginning of the shiur today. So it says the Mishna Berura. Therefore, tefillin in a bag would be asur. Says the Shulchan Aruch in the next Seif, which is the last Seif of this Siman, Seif Zayin, mitzvah lemashmesh adam bechelav be'erev Shabbat samuch lachashecha. The minhag that we just mentioned is a mitzvah brought in Shulchan Aruch, that before you get out of the house, when you are wearing your Bigdei Shabbat, it's mitzvah to check all the pockets, all the places that things could be put before sundown, to make sure that you don't contain anything in them that you're going to carry in. So when I was growing up, this was a big thing, because there's no eruv in where we were, and it's good and bad. It's good and bad because you should know, by the way, many families who are reliant on eruv once a year at least. So other people do it once a month. They don't rely on eruv, not because they don't believe in the eruv, or they think that eruv of their city is not good enough, but because they want their children and also themselves to know the concept of carrying on Shabbat is a thing, right? To know that we are carrying, not because carrying is mutar, but because we have eruv. So once a year or once a month, you go through a Shabbat and nobody carries in your house, right? And that kind of reinforces. It's very difficult for families who grow up in eruv, for kids who grew up in eruv. Carrying is not a thing for them. You go to a camping site, or you go to out of town in a place that there's no eruv, and it will be a michshol chas v'shalom. So therefore, there are people who do all kinds of different things to remind themselves of this. Again, this is a much bigger deal when you are living in a place that there's no eruv, versus a place that there is eruv, but you don't happen to be one of those who relies on eruv, because you hold, like what Chafetz Chaim said in the name of Shulchan Aruch here, that there is Reshut HaRabim Doraita, and then can't be reliant on eruv. So that, again, a person should be discussing with their local Moreh Hora'ah that knows their family, that knows them and their growth patterns and the level of where they are holding, something that a person should, that's why a mishpacha, a family, needs to have a rav, needs to have a moreh derech, a person that could guide them what chumras they should be adapting in the family and what chumras they should not yet adapt. That will be left to every yachid v'yachid to discuss with the rav. But says the Shulchan Aruch, to make sure that you don't have something in your pocket that you can't carry on Shabbat. And says the Chafetz Chaim, in your pockets, some people had things that they carried in their belts. I don't know if nowadays they have like hidden compartments in your belts and so on. But nevertheless, any of those you would check to make sure that you're not carrying anything with you on Shabbat. That's something to be careful with. Now, this is not just for men. The Kafachai writes that for women would be the same thing, that you should check wherever it is, if they have compartments in their garments that hold things and they put things in it, you have to be careful to check those as well. Now, sometimes you have in your in your pockets, it just crumbles of different things. It's like, even if you do laundry, things gather in there. Do you have to mamash, like, empty every little bit of thing? So Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, it's brought in Shemesh Shabbat Kilchata, it says you don't have to necessarily go vacuum clean everything that's in there. Those are garbage. It's not, it's not necessarily considered carrying those things. Same thing would be a question, which is different in halacha, by pebbles that you find in your shoes, right? If you have a pebble in your shoe and you feel it, that are you carrying that or not? So that already is considered something that you have to take off your shoe and take it out. You don't want to be dragging that along with you. That would perhaps be considered something that you are actually carrying. So therefore, you should not go out in Shut Rabim with that. Now, how about if I'm eating something, I'm chewing gum, or I'm finishing my bite, chewing and swallowing as I run out of the house? Is that mutar or is that not mutar? That's something that's debated and discussed in the poskim. And again, Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach holds that's mutar, unless it's it's a big thing in your mouth that you're feeling it. If you're chewing it, is in the cavity, something separate in the cavity of your mouth, it's a problem. But if it's like some little piece of meat or food that's stuck in between your teeth, you have to go floss and brush every time you want to go to the Shut Rabim, because you're carrying those residual remnants of food in your mouth. You don't have to do that, says Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. But again, if you have a bite in your mouth, you're still chewing. That's of course different. Now, if it's not something that you can see from outside, then it's not part of your body. It's not part of what's stuck to your body, so to speak. Then you should be cleaning it up. So chewing gum, of course not. Eating food still, chewing on it, it's not good. But if you have remnants and residual things left over in between your teeth, that's something that a person could rely on and could take off. It's not a problem. And the same thing would be, says the Chafetz Chaim over here in the last piece of the Siman, that's not just by Erev Shabbat. If you want to go outside of Eruv on Shabbat itself, also you would check your garments to make sure there's nothing there in your pockets. Also, there's another element that goes together with this, is don't put things in your pocket when you know that you may forget it afterwards, right? So they give a candy in the shul and you don't carry it, for instance, or you don't have eruv. And there's a bar mitzvah in the shul and they're giving candies, and you take a candy and you want to put it in your pocket. Don't put it in your pocket. Put it in your talit bag, right? Because you put it in your pocket and say, I'm going to eat it after by kiddush before I go home, or I'm going to give it to one of the kids, right? But you know what's going to happen at the end. Most probably you're going to forget it in your pocket, and halfway through the way home, you're going to feel that you have something you're carrying in your pocket, and next thing you notice is that you forgot to take it out or to eat it. So don't do it. Says this is already brought from the Vilna Gaon in his Hanhagot, that's something important to keep in mind as well. So it's not just an Erev Shabbat, it's on Shabbat as well. Okay, so again, with places that you have Eruv, where more Mekel, that this does not apply perhaps, but certainly when you are going out of Eruv, or you live in a place that doesn't have Eruv, it's going to be something important to keep in mind. Bezat Hashem will continue in the next Siman, very, very important and invigorating Siman Resh Nun Gimel, the halachot of Shehiyah, Chazara v'Hatmara, which are fascinating and perhaps most relevant halachot of Shabbat. Bezat Hashem in the days to come. Chazak u'Beruch.